This is the Working Money podcast with host Michelle Wong and co-host Relisha Gibson. We are one woman short with Desiree Kinney. She is currently away on a business matter in California, so she is greatly missed on this segment. And we have a wonderful guest author, Alicia Sedgwick, and you have a great book called Communicating Through Change. So I am super excited to hear more about your book. And also, if we can start off, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and where it led you to be this phenomenal author.
Thank you, Michelle. How lovely to be here. And thank you for having me here. So let me tell you a little bit about me. I think, as you can tell from my accent, I am originally from England. And when I was in England, I was a lawyer. I was a family lawyer for many, many years, helping people through trauma in divorce and children cases. I was also a family mediator trying to negotiate through disputes relating to the family. And during the period when I was a lawyer, I also visited the south of France. And I then started coming backwards and forwards to the south of France. And when I was here, because I'm speaking to you today from there, near to Monaco, I used to do everything other than the law, which isn't that I would then behave illegally and unlawfully, but I wanted to do other things. So I had my own events business, and I worked in events, managing the red carpet for Laureus World Sports Awards and managing the green room at several events like the World Music Awards, and also talent managing for the BBC at events like Chelsea Flower Show. I had my own internet TV show and radio show, which was Asking Alicia, which dealt with issues and how they impact on the family. And then I started to teach communication and public speaking and presentation skills. And I started with one class of undergrads at the International University of Monaco. And that then developed to several classes for undergrads, for master's students and MBAs, and teaching that at the International School of Monaco, and then to corporate clients, associations, and individuals. I'm also a professional MC, and I'm the MC for events like TEDx Monte Carlo. So I guess that my legal training led me to then be working in a field that I absolutely love, which is empowering people to communicate effectively and make an impact. And now I do that all over the world. And in the last year, particularly, it's been online, of course, because of the global pandemic, and really helping people to communicate well on camera and online, and very much in demand for that work, which is terrific because it really is so very helpful.
Well, certainly you have an interesting background. I think that communication is an important factor in how you convey your your communication, your presentation. It would impact the people in a certain way. So depending on how you present yourself will convey how people perceived you. So that's a very important component.
Yes.
Very interesting background. I love the fact that you're a uh, a woman that has so many multi layers to you. Being a lawyer, starting out as a lawyer, and then transitioning into being a person that can give advice and consult other people in ways of communication, that's amazing.
Yes, I think that, thank you for recognizing that, Michelle. I appreciate it. I think that for me, you know, when I was a lawyer, the one thing that I really loved about that work was being able to help people and help them at a time when it was very, very difficult. And so now being able to help in such a positive way, because the problem was that as a lawyer, that you are constrained, that you are working within a system, and that system isn't necessarily just, and in fact very often it can be unjust. There is a lot of injustice, so there was a lot of frustration in being involved as a lawyer helping people, because you're constrained, you're limited, and also very much regulated, and you know that that became even more important to the profession than actually being able to do our jobs. So now I'm able to help people in a really, really positive way without those constraints, and that to me is absolutely fabulous.
That's amazing. Well, one of the positive takeaway from that is that from the transition of being in a limited capacity allowed you to transition into evolving into your full potential. And that's one of the great things about the space of entrepreneurship, because entrepreneur is such a broad and big umbrella, and there's so many businesses that fall under that umbrella. But having the ability to have your to go to through the evolution of your full potential allows you to give back so much of yourself to other people, and those individuals can learn so much from you, and that's such a rewarding, enriching experience. So I commend you for that. I think that that's an amazing amazing transition that you've done in your profession. So I'm truly um, amazed by that, and especially also that you wrote a book about this. And so I guess I want to take this into the next step, and that is to talk about your book, and what are the pivotal points in your book through the experiences leading into writing your book.
Thank you. Yes, again, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, I think that I realized, particularly last year, during this period of great uncertainty and change, that I am somebody who is very, very helpful. I've used that word since we've begun this conversation, but I realize that I do help people a lot and that I can support them very, very much. But I also felt that I could do that in a deeper way and in a wider way. And that was the reason that I wrote Communicating Through Change. And I had the idea that at the end of August, beginning of September last year, I felt that I wanted to write about my personal experience of change, because there's been a lot of changes in my life, not only changing countries, changing careers, as we've spoken about, also through loss and bereavement, and change, of course, through the pandemic. So I, first of all, wrote about that personal experience and what I have learned. And then I was in touch with a literary editor and author coach, Wendy York, and she really helped me to find the structure for the book, which is to then not only talk about my experience of change and what I have learned, but then to give communication techniques for my readers, for them to be able to communicate their way through the same or similar experiences. So the book actually then was written and sent to a publisher in less than 3 months, and it was published in January last month. So actually out into the world in less than 5 months. And of course, it has received excellent reviews. It was actually an international bestseller in many categories overnight on Amazon, because, as I had thought, it is so very relevant and pertinent for today, and to really help and support people through the changes in their lives, with me expressing my vulnerability and showing that there is strength in that, and so giving strength to my readers as well.
Well, I really love all of this. Like, I'm quiet, but I'm taking it all in because I personally feel like for myself, I know that there's so many areas in communication that I can work on, from with my children to my relationship to my business relationships. So I'm just soaking this all in. But what I've gained so far from your story is, honestly, I love how you reinvented yourself so many times. I feel like I love how women, we constantly have the ability to do that in all the different phases and areas of our life. And it seems like this came so easy and natural to you. Like it was something that you already did. You already had all of the knowledge. And then you just, I spoke at a school. I did a class. And then it turned into this huge thing. So congratulations
Thank you
on
so
that. And
much.
I'm actually going to grab a copy of the book and read it. It sounds like I can learn a lot from it.
Yes, please do.
Yes. So my question for you is now, so now that you've published the book, and you said you wanted to basically reach people on a wider scale, what's some feedback that you've actually been getting from people who have read the book?
So the response has been incredible and wonderful, and I am so heartened by that, because essentially it has achieved the purpose that I wanted, which is that it is helping people so much, and they can really relate to it. And even if the experiences that I write about in the book don't particularly resonate for somebody now, they know someone else that it does relate to. And so they're
Right.
saying to me, I really appreciated it. And I really appreciated that particular chapter. And that particular chapter, I can really relate to. I've sent it to my mother-in-law. I've sent it to my best friend. I sent it to my dad. So this is the response, and it really is snowballing in that way, because it really does help, and I knew that it would, and it's achieving that because it speaks from my heart. As I said earlier, it exposes myself because it's very, very raw, but it shows that in doing that, there is strength, and you can be strong, and you can move forward, and you can deal with and cope with these situations too. And you're not alone. Because,
Right.
a lot of the time when people are going through trauma, when they're going through grief, when they're going through loss, when they are going through uncertainty and instability, they feel that they're on their own. And what my book achieves is that they know they are never alone, because somebody else has gone through it, somebody else is going through it. And also, whenever I do my training and teaching, I always do it within Team Alicia. So any of my students, young and older, immediately become a member of Team Alicia. And what that means is that when you are with me, you are in an environment where you are free to be yourself, without inhibition, without worries, without cares, anxieties, and concerns, because you're not going to be judged. You are going to be supported. And knowing that you are in Team Alicia and what happens in Team Alicia stays in Team Alicia, and knowing as well that that membership is forever and always, it is an incredible support, and it's very, very liberating. So when you read my book, when you buy my book, when you read it and you use the communication exercises, you become a member of Team Alicia. And so you are embraced and you are part of that community, which is going to be with you then always, giving you support and understanding and not judging you, just giving you nurturing and caring. You know, you spoke about, Michelle, earlier on about motherhood and mothers. Well, I guess that in some ways then being in Team Alicia is being mothered because you're going to be nurtured and cared for.
No, I love that. It's funny because a lot of the things that you were saying this past week, I've been working with my business coach, trying to just create like a really powerful vision, mission statement. And because my brand is called Moms Who Grind, I cater to moms that are looking to take the transition to start businesses. But I'm like, some of the key things that I want to be able to provide for them is the stuff that you're saying. So I'm like, what do moms need? Moms need support. They need understanding. And I get it. I have 2 small kids at home. So I know sometimes you can be recording or making content on a meeting. Your kids are going to bust in the background. They're going to ask for snacks. Like, that's just okay. But I know sometimes when you're doing business as moms, we put so much pressure on ourselves. So coming from another mom perspective, it's like, hey girl, that's fine. I understand because my kids are doing the same thing. You don't hear them in the background, and that kind of eases, their tension and their stress, and they don't feel so under pressure that they have to, have this perfect kind of persona. And then with, like you said, the global pandemic, people working at home, even prior to that, the whole like mompreneur coin was more term for moms that were stay-at-home moms now starting businesses and side hustles. And that's going on before pandemic.
Yes. Yes.
So
yes.
it's no ways to get around that. So I love all of what you're saying. But
well,
I
love what you're doing too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because it's all about empowering, isn't it? And
right.
That's exactly what we need to do, and we most definitely need to do that for our mothers and for other women. To actually stand by them and walk with them, because we do that from a position of immense understanding. And so, that is so powerful in itself. And I think as well, giving women almost permission to be able to be themselves and
yes.
really, and their uniqueness, and really appreciating that and respecting that of ourselves. It's so important. So good job.
Thank you. Thank you. So now I do have a question. As far as like, okay, your classes, you don't have to go obviously into detail, but what are some key areas that you focus on when you're teaching your trainings and your classes, or, when you have your students, the things that they're most receptive to?
Okay. I think that for me, it's about empowering. So it's all about, for me, the communications training is to really help people to build their confidence when it comes to expressing themselves. So it's very much based in what I call 24 karat magic. Music is very important to me, and I have the theme tune, and it's 24 karat magic. I won't sing it for you now, but because when you present, when you express yourself, it's like when you watch a magician do their magic tricks, and you think, how do they do it? Well, what I do is to give people the techniques and the tips, so that when they express themselves, people say, how do you do that? So it's about producing magic. And the way that you do that is to give, first of all, help for people to overcome their fears. And the first thing that I say in that respect is, if you feel anxious and shy about talking and speaking, it is never about you. It's about your audience. So straight away, the onus is off of you. You don't have to think about, ooh, what do I look like? What am I doing? Because actually, it's about the audience. How do you want them to think? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do as a result of your communication? So that's the first step. And that is a really big step for a lot of people, because people are afraid of speaking up and speaking out. So if you think of any communication as being a conversation, and if you think about what you do in a conversation, and that is to engage, it is to make the other person feel that you are interested in them, and you achieve all of that when you speak, even if it is public speaking or if it's speaking on camera. If you achieve the effect of a conversation, engaging, making that other person feel that they are interesting and you are interested in them, you're going to be very successful. So it's about producing magic, and I give people the tips and techniques.
You got the magic. I'm all in it. I'm like,
no, you are a member of Team Alicia already.
Already, I'm drawn in. I'm sold.
And you too, Michelle, okay?
Yes, well, I'm a little bit of the combination of the two. Of speaking and conversing with people and engaging with people is one factor, but also listening to the person and hear the message that they're trying to convey is also very important, because you can miss certain key elements that they're trying to convey to you. And so it's very important too.
I'm so glad that you said that, because one of the key points that I was going to say in our conversation today is, when you look at oneself, you have two ears, you have two eyes, and you have one mouth. Now, I'm not a great mathematician, but even I can work out that that's two, and one. So what does that mean? It means that listening and observing are even more important than what you're saying. So, Michelle, I really appreciate that you said about listening, because it is key. And people don't think of that when they think about communication. If you listen and you observe as well as speak, again, you are going to be a very effective communicator.
Well, even to this day, like, one of the most powerful things one of my old mentors said was, like, listen to understand and not to respond. And when he first said it to me, I'm like, giving him the face, like, what are you talking about, guy? But I was young. I was like 20, 21. So now over the years, like, that really truly makes sense. It's something that's so simple, but I think we all kind of naturally have like this defense thing, or someone saying something to you or trying to correct you or educate you on something. Your natural thing is to respond. You want to give a response back, but sometimes you don't really require a response. You just need to kind of observe the information.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And again, I think that comes into, if you think of your communication as being a conversation, which means that, in fact, you don't have to speak all of the time. You actually can take your time and you can listen. And indeed, you should listen, because it's not for you to be speaking all of the time. If you listen and not be thinking about, okay, what's my response? What am I going to say to this? And it's the same when you give a presentation, that you don't have to be all the time thinking, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? Because it's all about me and what I'm saying. It isn't. It's actually, take your time. If you do listen, and you listen to your audience, and you observe, you'll observe whether or not you've lost their attention. And in which case, if you pause and then start talking, you'll get their attention back again. So it's very much, yes, it's not about, okay, what am I going to say? Listen. Think about then what you want to say. And also that gives you control and command too, which is very, very important when it comes to empowering. And if you do feel nervous and anxious as well about expressing, if you actually take your time and you think about your response and really listen to the other person, so you know that, okay, now I want to say this. You've got control and command on what it is that you are going to say. And that is very, very important for people who don't feel confident in a situation where they are having to express themselves. Very often in meetings now, particularly I think on camera too, people feel a little intimidated, and they don't know that they can actually still take their time and respond, and nobody knows what you're going to say, so you're not going to make a mistake because we don't know what you're going to say.
That makes sense.
I agree with you, Alicia, and then the reason why I'm nodding my head a lot is conversation, communication is a two-way dialogue, and it's a give and take. And like you said, you don't necessarily have to be the person that is constantly speaking. You also have to listen and also take in what the person is saying. And the other thing too is, as human beings, we have a tendency to be very quick to respond to whatever the message that we're receiving. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. And especially so, we're so quick to respond when there is a negative, or we think it's a negative or criticism. We're so quick to jump to defense and respond quickly. And one thing that I've learned over the years is like you said, take your time to take in what is what you're receiving as a message before responding. And you have to articulate in your own response the proper way in order to let the other person understand where you're coming from, but also not convey this in such a overly aggressive or dramatic manner. Because like if we're upset, we're angry at what we're receiving as a message, sometimes we're so short to respond back and be a little snappy. And sometimes that's not the case to convey your message. You have to take it in, really assess what you're going to say before responding. And that's one of the things that I've learned, that transition from my personal life, dealing with friends and family and so forth, but also on the business side, because business is the most that part of your life that gets affected the most. When you're conducting business with other people, you have to be very careful and very mindful of how you're responding, even though they might send you, communicate with you, whether it's writing or orally. The message comes off as a little bit, in a sense of criticism. So you have to be very careful how you articulate yourself.
Either defensive or offensive. Yes, there's a couple of things out of that, Michelle, that I agree with you completely. One thing is that, nowadays everything is so rapid, isn't it? Our communication is so quick and rapid, which is a wonderful thing, but it can also be a terrible thing, because we feel that we have to respond immediately. And I think one thing that I have learned too is that taking time, because your immediate reaction may not necessarily be the correct one for that particular situation. So I think that it's having the ability to say, actually, I don't have to respond to that right now. I'm going to think about it overnight, and then I will send back an email. That you don't actually have to immediately reply if you feel maybe that you're going to be rather too emotive, that maybe you're not going to respond as an adult. Because sometimes, you know, we go back to being childlike, and it's like, you know, I'm not going to put up with that. So I think, yes, first thing, you don't have to respond immediately. You can take your time. And the other thing as well is that I always say to my students that it's rather like if somebody throws a ball at you, you don't necessarily have to catch that ball. So you don't have to accept that if somebody is coming at you, perhaps in an offensive way, perhaps in a highly emotional way, perhaps in a way that you don't feel comfortable with, you don't have to catch that. You don't have to receive it. You can actually let it drop and let it go. And then you respond in the way that you feel comfortable with and you want to respond. So, yeah, that was a couple of things that I thought of from what you were saying, because what you were saying was absolutely right. Thank you, Michelle.
Yes. I've had my moments where I honestly, when I receive specific messages, and this is something that just happened recently with someone, um, there was a miscommunication in that miscommunication, the person came off on the phone, came off a little bit aggressive, and I basically just sat, listened, and I did not respond to them at the moment. And when it led into another part of a conversation, that's where the miscommunication came from. But that disconnect did not come from me. That came from that person not interacting with another mutual party. And it just led to this hostility of, being very quick and hanging up on the phone, and then sending a continuation of an email. And I had to sit there and I said, okay, I have to walk away for the moment, not respond in the fashion. And I have to, like, I'm a human being. I sometimes I'm like, what in the heck did this, where this come from? But I had to take a step back to really assess the situation and how I was going to handle that without coming off responding in the same fashion, because two people doing the same thing is not going to correct the situation. So
No.
I just took a step back, gave it some time, came back with an apology, basically letting them know that I understand where you're coming from in your emotional state, and I understand that circumstances happen. However, you have to understand where I'm coming from. All I am trying to, convey to you is XYZ from that. And it led to a positive note where it took a couple of days, but that person responded back and said, I accept your apology, even though it was just an apology to try to neutralize and diffuse the situation. But I felt that it needed to be done in order for them to, whatever they were thinking, it can be diffused, and have them understand that it wasn't coming from any place that they thought in their mind. So there's a lot of situations that I've endured and recently handling people's different personalities, different emotions, and you have to learn to really understand where is that coming from. Sometimes it could be a sign of them venting because they're struggling with something, or there's something going on in their life. So you have to be very mindful, very sympathetic and compassionate for where the message is coming from. You have to read between the lines what is being said to you, because sometimes the way that they're coming off at you doesn't necessarily is where what they mean on the inside. It's just emotional um that is coming
Absolutely.
out.
Absolutely. And Michelle, well done you, because what you did there was to take the heat out of that situation. And really what you used was empathy. And this is something again which is so powerful in communication. If we can empathize with our audience, our listeners, our whoever it is that we are having a conversation with. Because very often, when somebody is expressing frustration, if they are expressing tension and stress and a lot of emotion and intense emotion, it isn't because of you, it's because of what's happening for them. And so it is understanding where they are coming from. Also, we are communicating on a global basis, which means that we are communicating with different cultural backgrounds. And so we have to understand who we are talking to and where they are coming from, not only in terms of their emotions, but also their country and their background and their training and what it is that they have learned. So it's very, very important to use empathy and to really understand. And yes, to take the heat out, because very often, that heat isn't about you, it is about a situation that the other person is in. So I think that it takes great courage actually to say, look, I'm sorry if this has not been the way that you want it to be. I apologize for that. How can it be better? How can I understand better how it is for you? And then when you express that and you allow the other person to express their point of view, taking out that heat, therefore, because you've said, look, I'm sorry. I understand that it isn't the way that you want it to be. How can I make it better? It then gives them permission to be able to express themselves. And also, having done that, you've built up trust that you can then say, okay, I understand now from your point of view. Let me tell you from my point of view, which actually, Michelle, was exactly what you were doing. So congratulations and well done, because that is the power of communication. And it is really to practice empathy and understanding, but also to say, I don't necessarily understand you now. I don't necessarily understand what you are saying or where you're coming from. Help me to understand. If you ask for help, it's a very strong thing. People think that if they ask for help, it's a weakness, but it isn't. Particularly as well, if you're starting your own business. And so for your mums, if you think about if they are starting their businesses and they might feel that they can't ask for help in
Right.
any kind of communication, because actually communication comes from the Latin communicare, which is to share. So if you share, it's going to be a lot better and it will give you power. And that's what we need. So I think, expressing maybe I don't understand, help me to understand, or I don't necessarily walk in your shoes at this point, help me to do so. It's all going to be a bonus and it's going to be empowering.
Right. I definitely find it very empowering for me to, share my experiences. My whole kind of purpose of even starting Moms Who Grind was I came from a different background, entrepreneurship. Then I had kids. I took some time off. I kind of just, regrouped, refocused because now my life dynamics were different. But as I'm out and I meet people and I meet mothers and women, they look at me like, wow, how do you do all these things? Or how, are you making it look so easy or so whatever? But I also explain to them of, well, first of all, my background is different. So before I had kids, I had some of these experiences already. So it was easier to regroup and reapply the things that I knew versus starting fresh. So I understand the aspect of being a new mom and being overwhelmed at that time. So now you're a mom, you're under more pressure. Now you're just your whole perspective, your view of life changes because you're looking at your kid or these kids every day and you want better, you want more. So now you're putting pressure on yourself, but that's like you're learning how to be a mother. Now you're learning how to be a businesswoman. And I saw that there was the problem there that why a lot of women didn't start was because of that, because they either feel like they don't have the time, they don't have the necessary tools, they don't have the resources. So I'm trying to create a one-stop hub where they can get all the things there that they need on top of the support, the love, the understanding, and somebody who's going to walk through the stages with them. And I have the experiences that you have. So I may be past that stage, but it was a day when I was there. So I'm trying to bring all of that together because I feel like that's what is the missing piece to their puzzle.
Well, wonderful you, and wonderful you as well that you haven't forgotten that all of that you've been through, and now you are actually helping people using your experience, just as in the same way that I'm doing that in a way through communicating through change, the book. But it's fantastic that you're doing that and really giving back, and really helping women and mothers to make those stepping stones towards building their own businesses and building their own empires, and actually getting over those feelings of being overwhelmed and gosh, where do I start and where do I go? So that's fantastic. Well done, you.
Thank you. Well, it's a work in progress. I'm working, I'm building, and but this is the idea. My kids are 5 and 6, so I've probably been working on this now for just about the amount of time, and starting and stopping, and okay, I want to do something different. I want to take a different approach. So right now I'm at the space where I feel like I actually have the most clarity and a clear vision of what I want, and that's, like I said, from the years of experience of trial and error, and now really putting it a package to it. So
well, that's
it's building, it's growing.
Fantastic.
It's coming along.
But one of the tips that I was thinking about before I came into this conversation this evening, for me it's evening here, was about being clear. And one of the things that I was going to say was that it's so important that you really clearly define your goals, that you really think about the opportunities and the challenges, and that you're very, very clear on what it is that you want to achieve and what you want to be achieved. So you're doing exactly that. You just said that now you're at the stage where you're very, very clear. And so again, I commend you and I applaud you. You're doing something that I was going to say is very, very important. It is about being clear. So great.
Thank you.
I want to, we're getting closer to the closing time, but I wanted to ask you, I know that we're in this pandemic and things are a little haywire in regards to in-person events and things of that sort. Getting out of this pandemic, of being optimistic and looking at the light at the end of the tunnel,
Yes.
I would like to know from you, what are your essential plans uh, leading out of 2021 and going into 2022 with your book and also your speaking events, and like what is the plan in the near future, this year and also next year?
Thank you, Michelle. I would say that my plan is very much for now, to continue the training and the teaching online as well as in person. My hope is that as we come out of the pandemic and the world opens out again, that I will be able to do that in person all over the world. And also, yes, to be able to speak about my book and to give the techniques and the tips and the help and support. So I would hope very much, the plan is to be able to do that in person as well as online, and to really to spread that word and to spread that message, to really get members of Team Alicia together in one room, so that we can really feel my embrace and the support and the concern and care that comes from my training and from the experiences and communication techniques that I'm writing about in the book. So that's the plan, and I look forward to that very, very much.
Awesome. So I don't know, really, Relisha, if you want to chime in on any other questions that you would like to ask Alicia.
No, honestly, I really was trying to ask things that I feel like the audience would be thinking as they're watching this. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. We covered a lot. Um, I think that your message and you know, what you're trying to communicate is very clear. So it's easy to understand. Your delivery is great, amazing. So I'm just in awe, actually. So
Thank you,
hopefully one day
Alicia.
I can meet you in person.
Oh, I do believe that everything is for a reason. And so I don't think that it's any coincidence that Michelle brought you to me today as well. So it's such a pleasure. And I'm really very interested now to follow you as well as Michelle. So fantastic.
Likewise.
Yeah. So you'll have to let me know how I get in touch with you, and people can get in touch with me. Go to my website, www.aliciasedgwick.com. I am on Facebook as well and LinkedIn, but I'm sure that Michelle will be sharing all of that.
Yes,
Okay. Well, go
absolutely.
ahead, Michelle. You want to go
No,
first?
absolutely. Well, Alicia, you beat me to the punch, because that was basically my next question: is where people can follow you and where they can find your amazing book, and how they can interact with you. You have an amazing platform, definitely a place for people to check out and learn and grow and be able to communicate properly, communicate and convey their message, and also learn from the other person as to what they're trying to convey to them. So yeah, I was ready to say that, but you you kind of
Sorry, I jumped in. But yes, the book, Communicating Through Change, is available on Amazon all over the world, wherever you buy your books usually. So you can get it there. And yes, my website, www.aliciasedgwick.com. And I would just end really by saying that obviously buy the book, and yes, please visit me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and my website, Alicia Sedgwick Communications Coach. But something I wanted to advise, particularly Relisha, for your mums, and Michelle, for all of your listeners. People spend a lot of money on branding and marketing and their image and their mission statements, and they forget one really important tool in all of that, their voice. Because then they spend all of that money on branding, all of that money on marketing, all of that money on their image, and then they open their mouth and they say, oh yeah, I've got a really fantastic business. And it all goes out the window. So really, concentrate on your voice and the brand of your voice, because that message is really, really important for your entrepreneurship and your success. And in order to develop your voice and your communication skills, I'm here, and Team Alicia.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That was a nice closer.
Thank you.
Great advice. I have to say, great advice, and I've been profusely nodding my head, because a lot of what Alicia has said in this segment has been something that it brings a bell with me. And everything that you've said is like, yep, I do that. Yep, I do that. Oh, I can understand that too. So yeah, this was a great conversation, great dialogue. I learned a lot from you, and looking forward to a possible coming back, a second part interview in the near future, and talk about what you have going on, and also possibilities of any other possible books that you would write in the near future. We'd love to follow you and see what you're up to in the near future. So I would love to extend the invite and have you come back for another segment and discuss more in detail, what you've been up to.
Oh, Michelle, thank you. I would love that. Thank you so much. There's only one condition. Relisha's got to be there too.
Oh, absolutely. She's our co-host.
Yes, I'm always here.
We're a dynamic trio, minus Desiree, but we all have different segments, and this is all in conjunction of this wonderful podcast. It happens to be that our dynamic personality trio has led this perfect synergy for us to talk to our guests, and they everyone contributing to asking great questions and engaging with our guests. So this is
wonderful.
The next time, hopefully, we'll have Desiree on, so that you also can get to talk to her. And I know that she would definitely.
Yeah, she would love you. She would have been so excited today. And she has her business, which is called the Business Matchmaker, where she pairs up business owners with different resources or other businesses and like things that they may need for their business. So she would definitely have benefited from this as well. And even just the little part that you spoke about, like speaking and engaging with your audience, I feel like I learned so much just from that, because pre-COVID, I had started doing panels and doing speaking engagements and trying to build that up. So I definitely took some tips. I'm going to order the book as soon as we get off of this Zoom. Because I like physical books. I like physical books. So everybody's like, oh, just download it. And I'm like, no, I want to feel the book. I want to turn the pages. I want to smell it.
I'm the same way.
So I'm going to order it.
Well, it's very easy to read, actually. It's very easy to read, and you'll get through it very, very easily. But it's the kind of book that you can read it very easily. You can put it down, and then in the months ahead, you'll think, oh, wait a minute, Alicia said that. And
you want to go back. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really, truly enjoyed this energy and this interview today. And you guys can find me on social media at Moms Who Grind. You can see my new shirts here. You guys can
I love that. Oh, Moms Who Grind. I love that.
Yes.
Where do we get the shirts?
Well, I'm actually in the process of relaunching. So April 1st is going to be my official relaunch, but I will reach out to you personally and I'm going to send you a shirt.
Oh, I love
So
you even
I'm
more.
going to go to your
Thank
website.
you.
I'm going to get your email and I'll send it to you. And the website will officially be back up for April the 1st. And that's www.momswhogrind.com.
Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And I'm so excited to meet Desiree as well. Is that
Yes,
how I
Desiree.
pronounce it? Fantastic. Oh, great. I can't wait.
Yes, she's going to love you. You're going to love her. Like,
Oh,
she
thank
will
you.
have
Well,
so many questions for you.
I've loved this time. So, Michelle, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I would love to come back because I'm loving it.
Yes, we are too.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for coming on. Great conversation. I cannot wait for the next segment and include our wonderful Desiree. And guys, for everyone out there who wants to continue following the Working Money podcast, you can find us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram at Working Money Podcast, at our website at workyourmoney.net. Until the next time, bye, guys.
Later.
Bye.